Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Two Chaps, Many Cultures, episode 159, 159, as they say in some parts. But 159, it is about style and substance. What is important? What is the most? Is there something that is more important than the other? And how do you particularly rate those two things? We're going to discuss that here in a minute. Stick around. Hey.
Welcome, everybody, to Chaps, Many Cultures, the show about the business of culture and how culture affects our business. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. And we have somebody saying, hi, excellent, 𝙏𝙬𝙤 𝘾𝙪𝙡𝙪. I think he's taken, I'm not sure where you're located, but the name might suggest you're located perhaps on the subcontinent, who knows? But to those of you who are further to the east of our planet, you might take advantage of this hour because we're starting this a little sooner than typically. As you can tell, we're not locked in on a live launch or start broadcast time. We try to keep it flexible to include as many of you as possible on the live recording. So do us a favor, like Suraj, let us know where you are, that you're here, where you're watching us. Maybe Suraj, you can tell us where in the world you are today, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we love starting at different times. We don't want to leave annoying anybody on the planet to chance. We're gonna get you wherever you are. So hence the different times, and hence we got a little maybe a specific topic today, talking about something that kind of touches on much ado about communications, of course, but it is about emotion. It's about expressiveness. It's about how we receive such and how we give such in this world of global business and, well, not just business, even social interactions. So we're talking about style and substance. Is there a point where we have to look at somebody, the way that they deliver their message, and if that confronts us, if it may actually overjoy us too, but do we then put that aside? Do we totally disregard the style of the communication and just really focus in, do what we always say, 2 ears, 1 mouth, very intense listening, very intentional listening, so that we can at least hear what the person's saying and respond accordingly? What do you reckon about this? What's your first impression of that, sir?
Well, for me, I struggled with this style over substance or style versus substance question without even knowing it. I struggled with it for a long time, particularly when I was not communicating in my native language. So English being a learned language, a studied language, for me, it took me years really of practice and immersion to recognize what of the message was style and what of it was substance, and how those different styles of delivery of language, how the style may carry a message in itself that I wasn't aware of. And it took me quite a long time. Being raised or being educated in the German school system, we were exposed to what the schools thought was the Queen's English, so British Oxford English. Not quite sure if our teachers always lived up to those standards, but that was the platinum standard that was held up as the level to which we should attain. And then I found myself in the English-speaking world that was not British, in North America or in other parts of the world, or with fellow non-native English speakers who speak an English that sometimes referred to as global English. It is a variant of the standard Oxford way of speaking the language. So for me, coming to terms with those different variants of English was not easy. So for me, the style confused me in picking out the substance, so to say. So I didn't even have the luxury of asking myself, well, is this fluff or is this substance? For me, as a speaker of the language of a second language, it was, how much can I possibly comprehend of what they're saying, and what could it possibly mean?
So guys, this is important, and this actually brought up something. I changed my style even at the intro of this episode, because yesterday I looked back and I realized what I was doing is Two Types of Cultures episode, and I was launching into it because, as you say, English is my native language. Well, maybe I have that variant you're talking about, of course, one of those variants. But it was, I think, well, hang on, we're talking to a global audience here, so my style, I might project a certain energy, and that energy leads me to speaking a lot faster than I probably would normally do if I was sitting around having cocktails with people or doing business. So therefore, I need to be cognizant of that and maybe slow down, my speech, because other people have far better linguistic skills than me and speak multiple languages, and English may not be the native language. So that's just one thing, is that, measuring my style and actually saying, I've got to be cognizant of that is important, so that other people can hear that. Now, do other people that know me personally then look at that and go, what's up with Brett? Is he on NyQuil or something? Is there something that he's the guy's half asleep? He doesn't normally speak this slow. But that's the difference, right? That's knowing somebody. And so there are cultures, of course, in this world that rely on the emotional expressiveness in their message.
Of course.
And that's as big a part of the message as the words. So this is going back to what we always say. It is about research. It's about learning maybe the general preferred style that we know exists in different cultures. Yeah.
And the NyQuil portion just brought up something. I don't know if any one of you saw this, but there was the virtual globe. I think it was the Golden Globes that were handed out, and the actor Jason Sudeikis received an award. And right when he gave his acceptance speech into a Zoom camera with a panel of other thumbnails on the screen, apparently his edibles kicked in. So, yeah, his style was definitely one to behold. Let's put it that way. But I think style could also carry a message, right? For some people who use a particular style of communicating, that may show signal their level of authority or their rank on the totem pole, and the way they express themselves may be an audible indicator. In many layered societies and with strata of certain socioeconomic or hierarchical groups, so to say, caste systems, or whatever other forms of ranking you'll find in societies, you'll find different ways of style of communicating, and it can be used as a weapon. I recently came across a conversation online, which happens in the German-speaking world, but it could be the same thing in probably many other languages or other language areas around the world, where disenfranchised people or marginalized people who traditionally don't have the same level of access to higher education develop a certain communicative style that indicates immediately, when you listen to them or when you communicate with them, well, maybe there isn't the same level of education that I have, right? And then I begin to, if I'm being a person with bad intentions or with just lack of social skills, I might even accentuate my more quote-unquote educated style to dominate them. So style could be used as a power tool even. So we want to be mindful how we're going to use it. And I'm guilty as charged. I see, for me as a speaker of English as a second language, and as a German whose desire is to be as unambiguous in his communication. I don't want to be misunderstood, right? I want to make sure that I don't step on anyone's toes. I use a lot of words to get my message across because I'm never sure, am I using the right words? Am I using the right metaphors? So I'd rather use 2 or 3 just to make sure. And by doing that, I may come across as condescending. I may come across as, I don't know, whatever attribute you want to attach to that, whatever meaning you want to give that. And I sometimes have to catch myself like, dude, just slow it down and just say one thing and wait for the response and be done. But it's not always easy.
Yeah, that's some cultures use that great skill. I mean, it's actually a communication skill. What they call it, triangulating, right? It's say one thing, but say it 3 different ways, because you may have different people in the audience that do understand different metaphors. So it can be an effective way, really. I think in many cultures, well, if you're dealing with a multitude of cultures in a room, in a meeting or something like that, triangulation is a way of kind of trying to embrace the inclusiveness of the people around you. That that some people, like my term, I just realized I use the term NyQuil. Now that medicine doesn't exist in a lot of countries in the world, so it could have been, lolly water for all anybody else. Some people.
I love lolly water, whatever that is. But that sounds good.
Water is good. Lolly water is good.
Does it come in neon green?
any flavor you want.
All right.
So, being specific, and you're right, those biases that we project on other people because of their accent. A good friend of ours, Heather Hansen, is hosting, I think, or hosted it late last night, about accentism. I'm sorry I missed it, but accentism, a real thing, the way that people express themselves and their accent, the way we hear it, leads us to certain stereotypes of thinking this person is either educated or uneducated, and so be it. A case in point, I use the example of the 𝙤𝙬𝙤 here in the US as a marketing tool, seen by a lot of Americans as a very quaint English accent. 15% on car insurance. You talk like this, mate.
Car insurance.
That kind of little, like, hello, mate. Hello, governor. How are you? And if anybody watch the movie My Fair Lady, will see that belongs to the classes, in a stereotypical way, of the chimney sweeps and the servants of the streets. So in certain contexts, different accents, different expressive styles can bring up biases in our own mind, and then we might actually miss a great opportunity to work and interact with somebody who has maybe more intelligence than us and more education, and but it's just because they've absorbed that accent or style from their surroundings. We just project the bias, a natural human reaction. So it's not a fault. We're not saying this is a fault. I mean, we do it, and we might say, like as Christian says, we're guilty of it, but it's not a condemning trait. It's a natural human trait, and we should recognize that and just work with it. It's great.
And I have somebody with a certain barking style right here in the studio, which is awesome. Let me quiet him down.
But the wonderful thing about dogs is they leave nothing to chance when they're actually expressing whether they're hungry or whether they need to go out to the bathroom or something like that.
In this case, he wanted to say hello to somebody who walked by the house.
So there you go.
The style, though, what you're describing, with the chimney sweep or the 𝙤𝙬𝙤. See, I always thought it was an Aussie accent, so forgive me for getting.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. People say, oh, you sound just like that guy on that gecko, that green lizard. I went,
so you're a chimney sweep. That's what I conclude now. Oh, okay.
What is it?
So now I conclude that you're in fact not Aussie, but you're a chimney sweep. Okay,
yeah, that's right.
Now,
yes.
But what style what style can be is a marketing tool. Or I would call it in neurolinguistics. I would say it's a hypnotic language pattern. So because certain marketers use a certain tonality of voice or a certain cadence of speech. Maybe they use alliterations. Maybe they use a certain melody. If you ever watched a documentary produced in the United States and you hear the male voice from the off, very often, not always, but very often, there is this African-American actor whose name escapes me now, who's got a very dark, somber voice, very soothing and also authoritative voice. So that is style, right? So that the tonality, not necessarily the words by themselves, but the tonality and the intonation, the timbre of the voice carry the message, or they carry they carry meaning and they serve a purpose, right? Albert Moravian, scientist, linguist, once defined that our communication consists of three major elements. That is the word base that we use, the actual vocabulary that we either write or speak, the tonality of our voice, how we say it. Whether I say it really fast with a high pitch, or whether I say it really slow and NyQuil, or if I have a background sound that accentuates what I'm saying. And the third piece is my body language. Is it agitated? Do I smile? Do I not move a bit? Do I nod my head? Do I jump up and down? Do whatever I do I have a twitch in my eye? Do I scratch behind my ear? All of this is part of the message making, right? So those three components. And yes, Laura, thank you. Morgan Freeman, that's the voice I was looking for. You know exactly what I mean. So Morgan Freeman has placed an anchor, whether he wanted to or not. Just me talking about him brings up the name for you, just proving my point that the tonality matters, right? Thanks for that, Laura. He has a storytelling voice. Yes. So does my dog, by the way. He's telling an amazing story.
Absolutely, yeah. We actually mentioned Morgan Freeman on another episode the other day about about picking narrators for a book, an audio book. Remember, Andy Dufresne. Something like that. It brings a lot of gravity, right? It brings a lot of authority, and he does certainly have that. But many people do, and I guess some people can walk into a room just in general, and just by their physical presence, by their vocal presence, by the way that they command a room. We all know people like this that can do this, and some people. I mean, again, I want to ask you, Christian, because somebody has done NLP. Is this something that is involved in something like that? Is this a tool that you can use, not for evil? Like, I know there is always that we're not trying to trick anybody here, but there are certain styles that do command a room, and at least have you listen to, or even. Maybe does it also work in reverse? Does it show that you are listening? That's the other thing. That's the most important thing. How do you do that?
If you want to be when you say command of the room, it may actually be just a conversation between two people. And if you recognize intuitively, you have that gut feeling that, oh, wow, this communication went well. So I got what I wanted out of it. And I think the other person did too. So we both walked away thinking, yes, we completed this task of communicating effectively. Then probably both parties listened well, and both parties were flexible, or at least one party was flexible in adjusting their communicative style, there we have it again, to that of the other person. That's what we refer to as rapport building, to getting in tune with that other person. So if you're an experienced communicator, whether you're communicating in front of a room of hundreds of people and you up on a stage and giving a talk, or whether you're in a one-on-one, doesn't really matter. You want to pay close attention to all the cues that you're getting from your audience. It could be that you first of all listen to them. How do they modulate their voice? What type of vocabulary are they using? Are they using a lot of action words, a lot of verbs? Are they using a lot of adjectives and adverbs to be more colorful? Do they use a lot of nominalizations to be more academic and factual? Do they use a high speed of speaking, and do they speak maybe hectically a little bit? What type of breathing do they have? Do they have this kind of up here breathing, or that belly breathing, and they're more relaxed communicators? All of these are cues that you can pick up on and not copy them, mimic them like a mirror image, or mock them like a mockingbird. You simply gravitate towards that. Like we often say, like we have a a zone of appropriate behaviors, right? We have a flexible behavior. The same is true for the style of our communication. And the more we can adjust to that of our counterpart, the more rapport we will develop, and we will almost like on a radio dial. Those of you who are old enough remember there's terrestrial radios and there are sound waves coming through the air. You Spotifyers have no idea what I'm talking about, but there's radio waves at a certain frequency, and if you get them in tune, if you get them aligned, then you're in tune with somebody, right? And as you reach that, as you adjust your styles towards one another, it doesn't matter if that's the style you like or that they like, doesn't really matter. As long as you're at the same page or at the same frequency, then communication will be, I would say, much easier and much more, it will be more effective. That's my experience.
I've forgotten about those radio waves, and of course then I've forgotten where my aluminium hat is, or aluminum hat. It depends on where you are in the world. Like, it's not that.
Well, don't you have an antenna on the top of your roof?
It's a little propeller.
Oh, that one.
Is that one? Anyway, this is a fascinating conversation we could talk about all day, and demonstrate styles and all that kind of thing, and learn from the audience out there. Thank you for those at joining us again. Let us know where you are. What's your experience with delivering a message, and what skills do you use? I mean, I tend to do this even in airports, when we're in airports, of course, in terms of just regular interaction. I like practicing this, even though I know nothing about it. I just think it's intuitively something that works if you're trying to do that, to make the other person feel at ease. But of course, not everybody has that or has the intention of doing that. So they come to you with just their style, just their message. It is out on their sleeve, and they present themselves and how that they feel it is appropriate in their culture. So do a bit of research, a bit of learning before you're yes, here we go. We've got a book.
We got a book that just came to mind. They're across cultures, communication styles are different as well. That's why we're doing this here. And there's a British linguist by the name of Richard Lewis. Here he is. Not saying this book is the Rosetta Stone of style versus substance or cross-cultural communication. It is one approach to it. And Mr. Lewis defines 3 prototype: the linear actives, those are the blue ones; the reactives, the yellow ones; and the multi-active communication styles. We're not going to debrief like 950 pages right here, but I think that come on. Okay, now,
what else have you got to do?
So if you want,
you've got to read it in. You've got to read it in Morgan Freeman's voice.
Yes, you got to read it. I can't do Morgan Freeman's voice, but here, if you're interested in this, start here. Might be quite enlightening to some of you. And I think that's what I have for today.
There you go. And Laura says, mirror and match in order to bring comfort levels to the client. Absolutely.
Yes.
That is way. That does kind of help people express themselves if they feel somebody is matching their style. And New York
City. All right. I'm not going to ask which borough, because then we're going to get into different styles of communication that I have no idea of. All right.
Apparently, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Is that so?
Somebody said it. Somebody said it once. Sang it once.
Oh, they sang it in a gecko voice, right? No, that was
I did.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. 2 Chaps, Mini Cultures, Thursday morning or afternoon, wherever in the world you are, episode 159. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be live again tomorrow, actually, same time. So if you're a lark in North America, come join us. If you are a night owl in the Pacific Ocean, then join us too. Whatever is your preferred time. Yeah, Queens, there we go. All right. Hello to Flushing or wherever in Queens you are, and I'm gonna shut up now on my New York stuff because I really don't know enough about it.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for joining. Share it out, everybody. Share it with your friends. We want to annoy the more people, the better.
Excellent. Let's do that.
And of course, our great friend Christina is here to read the book, recommend it. Thank you very much.
There we go. See, Christina. We got our people here. You know, we got our people here. All right.
Molto buono.
See y'all tomorrow.
See you, mate.